Session. So today's agenda is let's discuss uh, a few points about data engineering. By the end of the session, we'll be able to understand what data engineering is, what the data engineers do, and what are the main concepts in data engineering. Let's proceed with data engineering session today. Thank you. So, firstly, let's try to understand what data engineering is. Data engineering involves designing, constructing, and maintaining systems and architectures that allow data to be collected, stored,
Sai, wait a
processed.
second. Sorry for disturbing. Are you sharing your PPT?
Yes, I am.
I'm able to see the widescreen.
Yes. Let me try to reshare it.
Okay.
Am I? Is my screen visible now, Kartika?
Yes.
Okay. So, uh, let's understand what data engineering is. As you all know, today's world is data driven. Data has become a very big asset and it has become buzzword in today's world. So there's a high need that we need to work with data because every day the world is generating humongous amount of data, and there's a very high need for us to capture this data so that we can understand why things have happened in the past and what can happen in the future, and so that we can mold our day-to-day life accordingly to make it more easier. That is the objective behind this data engineering concept. So that's why data engineers, they do try to capture data, the humongous amount of data that is being generated by multiple resources, process it, and turn it into an usable format. So in order to do all these activities, we need to have some systems, we need to design some processes which can collect the data, process the data, and analyze the data. All this process is collectively called as data engineering. And the people who are involved in data engineering field are data engineers. So let's understand uh, the properties of data that is being generated today. As you all know, that huge amount of data is being generated, and this amount of data, we are clearly not able to process this data using the traditional systems because of the properties like volume, velocity, variety, veracity, and value. Volume is nothing but the amount of data that is being generated is very huge. Velocity, the rate at which the data is being generated in today's world, is also very fast. And variety, we are seeing n number of types of data, like the audio data that is being generated is one kind of data, the video data that is being generated is one kind of data. So there are multiple varieties of data that is being generated. Veracity, and the data must be accurate in order to derive some value out of the data. So these are the five main properties of data that is being generated today. Hence, the data which holds these properties true is called big data. So, big data is nothing but extremely large data sets that may be analyzed computationally to reveal patterns, trends, and associations. Friends, let's try to understand why do we need to do all this processing? Why do we need to capture this data? Why do we need to process this data? So this is very much essential because only when we store this data and analyze this data, that is when we'll be able to analyze the trends. Why certain things are happening as per a process. Understanding this, what can we do to enhance our businesses, enhance our lives in a better manner. In order to achieve that, we need to store this data, capture this data, and analyze this data. That's the main objective of any data engineering workflow. And in order to do all these things, we would need many physical infrastructure, you know, in order to capture the data, store the data, process the data. We need many services, right? And Establishing all those services either as an individual or either as an organization is a thing which is involved, which is a costly or expensive thing. So in order to avoid those kind of difficulties, came up cloud computing. So cloud computing is nothing but the services are provided over the internet by the cloud providers, whereas the kind of services that they provide are storage services, computing services, and networking services, many other services. So we need not afford to collect and establish all the physical infrastructure that is needed for these services. We can pay as how we use, and we can derive the benefits out of all these services over the internet. This is cloud computing, and this cloud computing plays a major role in our data engineering processes because we are buying all the services, the storage services, the computing services, and all over the internet from these cloud providers. Let's understand the different cloud providers that are present, that are most popular today in the world. One is Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services is one of the leading cloud source provider. It provides a wide range of services, the computing services, storage services, databases, machine learning services. We can train the machine learning models out of the services present in Amazon Web Services. So, Elastic Compute Cloud, EC2. EC2 is the computational service where we'll be able to create virtual machines within Amazon Web Services and will deploy all the applications to our virtual machines. We need not buy a physical computer, set it up, and do all those things. Amazon Web Services, the cloud service provider, takes care of all these things. S3. S3 is nothing but simple storage service. This is the storage service that is provided by Amazon Web Services. Relational database service is the data storage service. I mean, the structured data storage service, the RDBMS, Relational Database Management Service, that is being provided by AWS. And we also have it, data warehouse service, which is called Redshift. Then comes the other leading provider, which is Microsoft Azure. Azure also provides us the similar kind of services. EC2 and AWS, the same kind of service is provided by Azure Virtual Machines. The S3 is the storage service in AWS, whereas Blob storage is in Azure. And in AWS, we have this RDS relational database service. In Azure, we have Azure SQL database. And in Azure, we also have a service for analytics to, to perform data analytics, which is nothing but Azure Synapse Analytics. So, using as a data engineer, we make use of all these cloud services. So, all these cloud services are needed because a data engineer performs all these activities. So, the number of activities that a data engineer takes care of are acquisition, data acquisition. Data is not just available. I mean, data is available through many different sources. It is being generated through very many different sources. For us to work or process that data, we need to capture that data. That is nothing but data acquisition and cleansing. To derive some insights out of the data, all the data which is collected from the different sources will not be useful. We need to clean that data. We need to remove the bad data. We need to make that into a usable format that involves conversion, data conversion. We need to make many transformations on that data, and we need to interpret the data in multiple ways, which is called disambiguation, deduplication. We need to remove duplicate copies of data. Only when uh, all these transformations and all these activities are done upon the data, we can make use of that data to derive some useful insights out of that data. So all this kind of cleaned data is stored into data lakes, data lake houses, and data warehouses. We'll soon understand what these are. And Google Cloud Platform is also one of the leading cloud service provider. So let's try to understand What are the benefits of cloud computing in data engineering? Scalability. As I told you, we need not set up any physical infrastructure at our end. The service provider, the cloud service provider, takes care of all these things. So the first benefit that we would reap out of this cloud computing services are scalability. Let us suppose today we are handling data that is, let us suppose 100 GB of data is coming uh, to our pipeline, and we are handling that data. But what if tomorrow the amount of data that is coming to our system scales up to 200 GB? If we are handling, or if we are, we say it on premises. If we are handling this data on premises, we need to add more machines, more servers, more storage to process all this data. But whereas in cloud, we can do all these services without on the click of a button. That's called scalability. So these kind of benefits will be available when we use the cloud computing services. So as I told, the main role of a data engineer is to build data pipelines. Let's understand what data pipelines are. Data pipeline is kind of a workflow where the multiple activities that we just discussed about collecting, cleaning, and transforming the data are all interconnected with each other and automated with each other. It's like building an end to end solution. So all the tasks are automated and they are done in a sequential manner. So the process of capturing, uh, massaging, and loading the data is normally called as ETL, extract, transform, and load. Extract is nothing but gather the data from multiple services. Transform is transforming the data into a usable format. That is, let us suppose we are collecting sales data for a particular e-commerce service. Let's take Amazon as an example. So uh, let us suppose that Amazon wants to understand during a particular season what is the kind of, in a particular category. Let's suppose uh, in the fashion world, which kind of a product is being sold a lot. In order to do that, Amazon needs to understand the sales. So in order to understand the sales, Amazon has to capture the data that is that is present in their data centers. I mean, that is being generated from the Amazon website. So to capture that data, we need extraction. The process of capturing that data is called extraction. And out of that data, we need to segregate the data based off of each product. How much amount of money is being spent by the customers on each product? Which product has been sold the most? We need to count the number of products that were sold in a particular period. So those kind of things, when we do it, it's all transform and load. Once all these transformations are made, we do load this data either on premises or on cloud storage services. So the prominently used cloud storage services are, as we just discussed, Amazon Redshift, which is data warehousing service, and Google BigQuery, and also data lakes. There's other way of storing these things. Those are nothing but the traditional data centers which are maintained by the organization itself. There's no intervention of any cloud provider there. Then comes data lakes. Data lakes is also a storage service that is provided by the cloud providers. Data lake is nothing but it's a repository where we can store the raw data. As soon as we extract the data, we load the data into data lakes. Whereas in a data warehouse, we store the processed data. That's the difference between a data lake and a data warehouse. We also have data lake houses. This data lake house, the properties of a data lake house are a combination of the properties of both data warehouse and a data lake. I hope you have got a better understanding of what exactly a data pipeline is, what are the different storage services involved. Let's take a look at one of the example data pipeline. So this is a big data pipeline architecture. So over here, let's see the sources of data. The data is being generated by many mobile devices, web applications, microservices, IoT devices. All the data that is being generated from these devices is being collected, the transformations are made, and it is stored in the batch processing mechanism. I mean, this data is handled in batches. Data lake, as I just told, the data lake is used to store the raw data. The raw data is stored in this data lake. This undergoes processing over here, and the processed data is being in the data warehouse. From the data warehouse through stream processing, we are we are moving this data to multiple other section, which is nothing but the analytics section. The data scientists looking at this data, they analyze the trends. They may be able to predict, like in our previous example, they'll be able to predict, like in the next season, how much the sales would be for that product which has been uh, sold in huge amounts during the current season. That's what the data scientists do, and and the dashboards. Looking at this particular dashboards on how the sales went during this particular period of time for which we collected the data, the leadership can make decisions like what kind of other products they can launch, all those things. So that is how these are the end users of the data that has been generated, or which has come out as an output of our data engineering workflow. Whatever the data that has been generated as an output from our data engineering workflow will be used by these end users. These people are the end users of our data, the data scientists, the leadership, and other services, ML services. This data can be used to train the machine learning models. This is a kind of an example big data pipeline architecture. So let's understand, like as I just mentioned, big data is data engineering these days deals with big data, because big data is nothing but any data very huge for the current existing system to process. So all the data engineering workflows are mainly dealing with big data. So why do we need this big data processing? Because it enhances predictive analytics. We can predict what can happen in the future, improve the decision making processes, looking at the trends, looking at the ways our business is going on. We can make informative decisions so that we can improve our business. We can even train the machine learning models with the data that we did arrived at. So let's just have a quick look at the different data storage and data processing solutions that are available to process the big data. So one such kind of data storage solution is Hadoop. As you know, as the big data has the properties of huge volume, velocity, our traditional systems or the commodity hardware will not be able to handle this amount of big data. So there came into picture the distributed processing systems, where multiple systems which are connected internally work as a single system, providing us large amount of computational power, storage power collectively as a single device. Those kind of systems are called distributed processing systems. So these distributed processing systems are so popular in nowadays to handle big data. So Hadoop is one such kind of framework which offers distributed storage and distributed processing solutions to us. And also Azure Data Lake Gen 2 is also a distributed storage service. And Google BigQuery, it's a fully managed serverless data warehouse. Data processing. In order to process such amount of humongous amount of data, we would need more efficient processing frameworks. Such kind of frameworks are Apache Spark, Apache Flink, and Kafka, Azure Databricks. These are few of the data processing frameworks that are available. And ETL tools. Basically, when the data is being generated somewhere and it is processed somewhere. We would definitely need the ETL tools to bring in the data into our systems. Some examples of the online on-premises ETL tools are SSIS, Informatica, and on cloud we have AWS Glue, Azure Data Factory as our ETL tools. These are the service getting used these days. So let's understand how a data pipeline is actually built. So as how we discussed, when given a business case scenario or a use case scenario uh, for a data engineer, the data engineer develops different kind of a whole end-to-end solution for that particular use case scenario. So firstly, a data engineer would think about data ingestion, how to collect the data that is being generated by the sources, and they'll think about the data transformation solution, what kind of framework is suitable for the current data, for the current amount of data that we are ingesting into our system. They'll choose a suitable data transformation solution. They'll choose a suitable data storage solution out of all the storage solutions available, depending on the type of data that they are handling. And data access and visualization. This is for the end users so that they can make some analysis, and they can, and it helps them to take the business forward in a very better way. As we discussed, here's an example scenario about the e-commerce company. So they're collecting data from website logs, transaction systems. They are cleaning and aggregating this purchase data, and they're loading it into a data warehouse. And they're visualizing this data stored in a data warehouse using reporting tools like Tableau or Power BI. So the best practices, like for any data pipeline, these are the things that we look at to say that the data pipeline is really working very good. So such kind of properties that we take a look at are scalability. Our data pipeline should not stop or should not say that this is the amount of data that can process. Whenever the amount of data that is coming in increases, we should be our pipeline should be in a position to be able to scale up so that it can handle growing data volumes and data quality. So while implementing the data validation and cleaning steps, we need to ensure that the data quality is maintained. Like the data cannot disappear, the data cannot lose its value or its integrity. We need to maintain data integrity and security. Our pipeline or our workflow should be in a position that people can't capture the data. Okay, and monitoring and maintenance. For any workflow, regular monitoring and maintenance is needed so that we detect the issues that come up soon, so that we can keep our data pipeline very secure, because if not maintained it leads to data breaches, which is really not suggestible, or which is really not allowed. So usually we come across many challenges, so while handling big data, so those challenges are nothing but data coming from multiple sources. So when we are collecting data from multiple sources, the data is of multiple different formats. Integrating all that data and turning it out into a usable format using a data pipeline is one of the common challenges, and the data volumes. So for this, we need to understand the data well ahead of time, and we need to develop such a solution which is able to handle all the different formats of data that is coming in. Then large data volumes. So today, with the rapid increase in digitalization and all, large amount of data is being generated, and in order to process these large data sets, the scalability option should be needed, and real time processing. There are scenarios where we would need real time processing. As soon as the data comes in, that needs to be processed. We can't uh, we can't process the data in batches. The lower the latency, the more efficient is our solution. So these are the solutions to overcome these data engineering challenges. It's like using the scalable cloud solutions, designing robust ETL processes, and for real-time processing, we would use services like Apache Spark and Kafka, which can process the data on a real-time basis. So this is one kind of an example use case where data engineering techniques come into picture. That's like, let's suppose there's a data retail company which is using a cloud-based data warehouse to integrate sales with customer data, leading to improved marketing strategies. So they can store the data, understand the data, and they can design improved marketing strategies. So if they understand what's happening with respect to their data, they can make more informed decisions so that it helps in improving their business. So, what can be the future trends in data engineering? AI and machine learning are the emerging technologies today. So, training machine learning models can be a future upcoming technology here, and advances in real time processing. So, faster way of processing the data and industry predictions. Like the more we predict, the more our vision enhances, we can make more informed decisions. So, this is a brief overview on data I hope you could gain something out of this session. So, it's it's time for Q&A now. And just before we move to the Q&A session, I just want you to show the courses that we are going to offer: Azure Data Engineering, Data Analyst, Snowflake Data Engineering. We assure you that soon we'll be launching few more sessions on many advanced topics of data engineering too. So anybody who is interested to join any of these courses, please reach out to us. Thank you, and it's time for questions. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Thanks, everyone.
Scalability mainly it refers to the warehouse resources and clusters, increasing and decreasing, right? That's a part of scalability, right?
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Not just with storage, with respect to the computational power,
Okay.
it goes with all the services.
Yeah. So across platform, the scalability meaning may be the same,
Right.
not with respect to only Snowflake, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, for your information, because you are referring Snowflake itself, there is a scalability is same, okay, but the
Mm-hmm.
features are different. There's no auto scalability. No, the terms are different. Coming to the Snowflake,
Okay.
that is the auto scalability. Automatically, if you give time, it is going
Okay.
to stop. The function is
Oh, okay.
similar, but the features are different. That's it. Coming to
Oh,
SQL
okay.
data warehousing, there we are going to stop, pause and resume the resource. That is the
Okay.
one.
Okay.
That is the different one. Those two terms are different. Auto parsing
Okay.
and if you wanted to scalable, we have to mention in Snow SQL Server or anything. We have to go and we have to change the things
Okay.
manually, and just we have to save. That is also very easy. Earlier, how it will be, to scalable the things, we have to start the existing systems, then we have to raise the request. That the process is very big, but now those are handy. That is what.
Okay. 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 Got you. Thank you.
And Kiran, can you please go?
Yeah, hi Sai. Actually, I have taken a course on Snowflake. I have a doubt regarding. I can see there is an opportunities with Snowflake and idea of with Python or without Python. So without Python, is it possible to as a data engineer or data analyst, or is it possible to get an opportunity in IT?
Basically, if you are going to become a snowflake data engineering, you need to learn the combinations, okay? Because blindly, if you get the snowflake data warehousing, it won't sufficient, right? Only SQL and data warehouse, SQL and snowflake won't sufficient, because companies are looking for snowpark. Okay, snowpark is completely a python, otherwise they're looking for dbt also python, otherwise they are going to look for adf guy. These are the combination. We cannot expect. Some companies will ask adf plus snowflake, some will ask snowflake plus dbt, some will ask snowflake plus snowpark. And in future, now also few companies are asking aws glue plus snowflake. These are the combinations. But as part of our constraint, we are not teaching aws things. Yeah, you should learn one more thing. Okay, maybe you are joining with our course or not, but you have to learn. Maybe you can have the free courses, or if you wanted to join also, we'll give one course to you as well. Okay, that is what you have to do. Only snowflake can't give you the good opportunity. That is what I'm going to tell. Kiran, do you have any question?
Yeah, yeah, no, no.
Okay, up to your skill. If you are good and trying to learn Python, then go with Python. That is a very evergreen. Okay, go with the Python and learn Snowpark or DBT. Okay, no, I'll try to do the orchestration work and then ADF. Okay, you should learn the combinations.
So is it fine like SQL, ADF, and Power BI? It will be a combination of data engineering and data analyst.
No. The
Like how is it?
SQL server and ADF and Power BI will be the data analyst role, not data engineering.
Okay. So
Okay, yeah.
okay. So what is the part? I mean, in data analyst, if you learn the ADF, how it will be the. So yeah, basically, what I understood, ADF is the ETL tool where we are extracting the data from the on-premise and other things.
Yes,
So
yes.
how it will impact as data analyst? So that is my. I have
Yeah,
another doubt.
Kiran. The doubt is correct, absolutely correct. But here, companies are expecting multiple skills, right? Here, our course is data analyst course. Okay, the main focus is on around data analysis or data modeling, and also dimension modeling, and also will try to teach them the DAX queries, SQL Server things, some basic to the advanced things. That is the main focus. But we are giving the extra because ATL is an definitely a data engineering tool, but data engineers, what are the data engineers know as a ETL, data analysts not need to know. Okay, but they should learn in future, not now. I'm telling you, in future the role will be the same: data engineer, data analyst, and data scientist. Okay, so that's why companies are looking for the guys who has good skills, and they have the multiple combinations. That is what your doubt is correct, but they are expecting. That's why we are giving. That's it.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you for your clear information. ADF is a ETL tool and that related to the data engineering. Okay, and Power BI is a data analysis analytical tool that's related to data analyst. But here the requirements are changing, so that's why we are mixing. But if you see, ADF will do the engineering work only, not the analysis analytical work. Okay, if you are clear, I think. Yeah.
Yes, yes, clear. Thank you, sir.
Shanti, you can go.
Yeah, Kartika. Actually, Azure Data Engine, I have idea about ADF. Uh, as discussed, it's ETL, and Azure Engineering. It's also all about ETL. So what's the differentiation between those two?
Shanti. Shanti is our student as ADF student. Yeah, Shanti, if you wanted to give some feedback for us, you can give. Hello.
I have a question here, like
Yeah, I'll definitely
differentiation
tell you.
between Azure Engineering and ADF.
Yeah, sure. Here, the question which you asked, right? The ADF and Databricks. I'll tell you. Okay, the data is growing continuously. So, ADF is an orchestration tool. There we have to orchestrate, and the resources are very limited for that. Okay, there is no power of in memory there. Okay, and coming to the Spark and Databricks, they have the power of in memory and the distribution as well. So if the data is in millions and trillions at the time, that a data factory or any ETL tool is little bit slow. Maybe it will took 1 hour or 2 hours. Coming to the Databricks, it is going to solve very easily because it has the distributed power which ADF don't have, and it has the in-memory processing which ADF don't have. That is what the difference between Databricks and ADF. And Databricks is an that kind of a processing tool. We can do uh, transformations and all. That is also as an ETL tool, but it has the computation more computation power. And if you wanted to take
Oh,
Sahiti, you can take the differences between the distributed processing and normal orchestration tools.
Okay, it means Azure engineering is
No, no,
I
no.
mean
Azure
distribution of
engineering,
ADF.
Shanti, your doubt is Azure data engineering versus ADF, or
Yes, yes, that is the thing.
no, no, in
I am
Azure
thinking
data.
ADF is part of Azure data
Yes,
engineering.
yes.
So along with that,
ADF is an
Databricks is also there.
ADF is a part of Azure data engineering. What difference I told, right? I told the difference between ADF and Databricks. Okay, maybe few
Uh,
people are confusing. What is the difference between ADF and Databricks? And Databricks now gave the data lakehouse. Na, that is also make a big difference nowadays. These are all the different. These are all comes the tools which will do the data engineering in Azure cloud comes under Azure data engineering. If you
okay,
wanted to know the
so
combination, there
can
are
you
so
please
many
list
tools
of this?
are going to cover in data engineering like data lake, data warehouse, Synapse. Recently, Fabric came. Okay, data Azure Databricks, Azure Data Factory, Azure Functions, Log Analytics, and Cosmos DB, Azure SQL databases, database. So many things are there, Shanti. These package will comes under Azure Data Engineering. But whatever in market people teach with, those are the limited resources. That's what.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shanti. Tarun.
Hi, Sai. So why do we need Snowflake? We have other cloud services. Like, why do we need Snowflake? And what is the future of that?
You wanted to know the difference between the data warehouses, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, because every data warehouse is different. Nah, SQL
Uh,
data warehouse has their features and compute and storage power. Snowflake has that one, and Amazon Redshift and Google BigQuery. These are all different, and the different cloud providers as well. But Snowflake is the one which is host anywhere. If you want, if you are a Azure cloud provider, you can if you want to prefer, you can go and host us in Azure. That is a SaaS, actually, software as a service. And also, what is the difference means the architecture. Okay, the architecture itself makes the difference coming to other data warehouse. Snowflake data warehouse is a hybrid architecture, like it will do shared disk and shared nothing. And also it has the data engineers who developed Snowflake, not only engineers, the developers who developed the Snowflake have built so many things inside the Snowflake. They measure inside the snow, the architecture itself, the beautiful the thing. Okay, if you wanted to discuss that one, we need one more webinar. I'll tell you. Okay,
okay.
in future we'll have that
Okay.
webinar.
Okay.
If you want anything, I
So,
have
so,
the blog, I'll share
so
you.
Snowflake is more costly than this
Hmm.
Azure and
And
AWS
yes, it is
warehouses.
costly. Definitely, it is costly because it has more
Uh,
features. Like if I wanted to tell you micro partitioning, multi clustering, virtual warehouse, there we have virtual warehouses. Okay, auto scaling capacity, and Snowflake is developing. If so many things. If coming to Azure, we need ADF and Databricks. So many things it needed, right? But Snowflake in future, their thought is in future they wanted to give a data engineer work, data analyst, and data scientist can work in the same workspace. They are planning to give, and they are giving more efforts to develop the tool, and it is giving the success as well to the customers. Yeah.
Hope is there any webinar on Snowflake in future?
Sure, we'll have.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure. And Venkatesh, do you have any question?
Hi, thanks for the webinar. First of all, I would like to understand how much is the Python we are talking about here.
Python? Can you please come again?
Yes, the Snowflake you are giving the course, right? In
Mm.
that, the package mentioned that you are going to give the Python answer, right? But how much is the Python? Is it the basic and up to
Mm.
advanced, and how much is going to that?
So the trainer is different for Python. Okay, and no, Snowflake only different trainer for him. He's a very experienced who has 10 over 10 years of industry expert in Snowflake itself. So if you wanted to know more things about Snowflake, I think you have to join demo.
No, no, I'm not asking about the Snowflake at all. I'm asking about the Python. How much are we need to learn for Python?
Okay, you wanted to
How
learn
much
how
you are
much
going to give
Python.
us?
It depends
Yes,
upon the project. Okay, DBT and Snowpark. There are two actually, and there is no limit. We need to learn OOPS advanced also. We need to know because OOPS concepts,
correct, correct. But
which
how much you will be giving us? If I'm going to join in the
yeah,
course,
we'll give
Python
advanced, basic
to
to
advanced, right?
advanced means will touch and will you because teaching Python only will already we taught Python. Actually, it took around 2.5 months. That is a different course. If you wanted to see the videos, we have YouTube. If you want to see, that is a complete Python basic and advanced course. But we are already a data engineers who don't want to spend that much of time only in the Python. So the DBT is already the framework because the framework already there and it has the capabilities. Just will explain the framework and will show you few transformations and as well the Python code basic to advanced level of functions will explain. Venkatesh, that's it.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
And Venkatesh, if you wanted to get more knowledge on Python, then that will be the two packages. Python package, which will be the basic to advanced. That I told you, it will take some more time. 2.5 months it needed to teach the ADF because already we taught exceptional handling, swoops concepts, dictionaries, so many advanced topics, and we have covered memory optimization as well. And yeah, clean the code. We showed first the code, and then after we'll clean the code by doing the optimization. These all the things we already done in the Python. If people are interested to join you only in the Python session, we'll definitely do the one more course in Python itself. Yeah, that is what in Snowflake it is limited to Snowflake itself. We cannot teach from basic to advanced completely Python there. Okay,
I do
whatever,
understand that.
yeah, whatever Snowflake require we'll definitely teach. It may be 20 days or 30 days, we'll definitely spend there and we'll teach Python further.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Venkatesh, thanks for asking. Shanti, do you have any question? Because your hand is raised. Okay, anyone has any question? If don't have, we'll wrap up the session. Okay, I think we are clear. Thanks for joining, guys. Good questions. And in future, if anyone want to join with us and want to give some webinar, because sharing knowledge is a valuable thing for us. And whoever listening, they'll thought it is a gift. So in future, we'll collaborate and we'll have some free webinars as well. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks for your time. Yeah, Ramu, if you have any question, you can.
Hi, Sai. Hope you remember me.
Yeah.
Thanks for organizing this. I know you mentioned the courses that you provide. Would it be possible for you to maybe provide the course structure, how you're going to provide it? Might be useful for everyone to see,
Yes,
as you
Ramu.
cover quite a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, what you told is
It would
correct
be.
because
I know people are asking how much time it will take, and you are, from your experience, you are saying that a certain amount will be, certain time will be taken for someone to learn or become expertise. But it would be good if you break down how you're going to take it as you go. Um, Explaining the course, would you be touching Snowflake first, or would you be doing Azure ADF first, or would you be touching both at the same time? It would be good for us, and also at the same time, prerequisite would be also nice for everyone to know. Otherwise, people will come and expect I will start with nothing and I'll become a data engineer.
No, I forgot to tell. This is for the experienced guys who has 2+ years of experience. Basically, I forgot that one. At least he should be in the IT industry in 2 years. Just Ramu, that will cover in the demo, because this is a webinar, right? Just we wanted to give. We are offering these courses as well, but here the more courses evolved. Okay, we'll forward the demo once, and we'll once the demo started, we'll share our curriculum as well to everyone in the group itself. We'll place. Okay, yeah. Yes, any doubt? I think everyone is clear. Thank you guys. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Sahiti. Have a nice time with you. Actually, it is a great webinar. You almost engaged a 35 plus audience.
Thank you, Batika.
It's a great thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Have a good day.